Carol Quarles, as she would like us to
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. The fact that I'm on this panel to me is kind of crazy. And I have to thank my sister for this. You know, being the oldest in the family, you tend to be the one that feels like you're supposed to lead the path. Well, I'm very proud of her today, and I want her to know that when I am going to have to talk to her about this, having to follow him. Put the extra pressure on me. But I'm glad to be here. You know, the fact that when I say it's crazy that I'm on this panel, and speaking about criminal justice specifically, you know, it's kind of crazy to me because I grew up in LA, and I grew up, you know, fairly in a privileged family. You know, I didn't have to deal with a lot of issues that many people that I see on a daily basis have to deal with. So I've seen two sides of the story, and I think that has been great for me because I learned, being in Rikers Island and being at the front line, a lot about society that I didn't know. I'm sorry.
we just want to hear everything you're saying. Your sister told us that, by the way.
Good concept.
I've learned so much about society in general, working in a jail, that I ever learned living in LA and going to college at UCLA and you know, becoming a professional. And specifically, I learned how critical this is for us to understand and realize the impact it's having on our community. There's a saying that facts tell and stories sell. So what I'm going to do to make my point about the Black agenda and the criminal justice system is to start off with a scenario. Okay. An ad for a fascinating housing opportunity reads, available, exclusive housing opportunity, gated community with oceanfront views, 24-hour armed security, supervised activities for those interested, tax-free groceries, all meals prepared by a personal chef, cable, utilities, and transportation are all included, on-site religious services available. Members of our exclusive community get access to free dental, medical, and mental health services. There are no reservations required. And actually, there are lifetime memberships and even family plans available. Now, after reading this, you think to yourself, you know what, this is too good to be true. And it piques your curiosity, so you decide to read the extremely small and barely legible fine print. Fine print, because you want to find out who qualifies for this unique sounding, exclusive housing opportunity, and most importantly, what it's going to cost you. Now you realize in trying to read the details that it lists the prototype of the current residents and qualified members. So you're like, all right, cool, what do I have to do? So as you adjust your eyes and you can finally see what it reads, you're shocked. It reads, residency in Rikers Island Correctional Facility increases for those who are Black or Hispanic, male, live in economically deprived communities, involved in drugs, fatherless, drop out of high school or junior high, gang involved, have a history of incarceration, and finally, for those who commit a crime, get a felony. Now, I know some of you are wondering if this was an actual ad. And to be honest, it wasn't. However, what it was a flyer that was posted up in my office that my staff and I came across. Now, I changed it a little bit, but it does read at the top, sick of high school? Here's an alternative. And it lists everything I just read off to you. Now, when we read it, we were laughing because, you know, it's so very true. Rikers Island, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but it's an island. And you're surrounded by water. You have oceanfront views. You get free medical, dental care, all these things I just listed. It is so very true. So initially, it was funny to us. But as I pondered over the irony of the message behind it, it made me wonder, why would a system be set up this way? Why would a system that's supposed to be a deterrent to crime and punitive in nature offer what looks like a ton of incentives and enable a state of dependency? Now, in regards to a black agenda, what I think is critical for us to understand is that the prison industrial complex is a billion-dollar industry. And because the 13th Amendment of the United States Constitution allows for slavery, it was, ended. However, there is an escape clause. And the escape clause says that if you are convicted of a crime, slavery is still legal for you. So the criminal justice system has been used, the criminal justice system has been used basically as slavery's replacement since the era of Jim Crow. And it's still going on today.
That's right.
Yeah. Now, given that black and brown men make up the majority of incarcerated youth, and most of my talk today is going to be geared towards men because that's what I deal with on a daily basis, although there are a lot of women that are incarcerated as well. But given that black and brown men make up the majority of individuals incarcerated in the United States, thanks to the war on drugs, and just so you know, every war has to have an enemy. And so when you're watching these TV shows, when you're listening to this music, when you're seeing the news channel, you're being indoctrinated to look at our black men as people that are supposed to be locked up. Now, on a daily basis, I see a lot of kids, and I deal with anyone from 16 on up, and they commit crimes anything from not paying to get on the subway to murder. Now, some guys do deserve to be there. However, the majority, I'll say many, I won't say the majority, I'll say many, are just good kids that did not grow up as I did. However, society will want you to believe that they do deserve to be there. They do deserve to have the key to be locked up and the key thrown away. But given that the majority of individuals in the criminal justice system are black and brown, and the fact that jails and prisons are not built for rehabilitation, they're really designed for reincarceration. This is something you guys need to know. It behooves us as a people to have a black agenda that invests in our black and brown men's independence, not making them dependent on the system, but investing in their independence and potential to be assets to our community, instead of line items on a jail or prison's profit or loss statement. It also behooves us as a people to force society to acknowledge the influence of the racist systems that engender criminal activity and feed the cradle-to-prison pipeline, instead of placing the blame on the individuals that are subjected to those systems. Many times we tend to think that they're bad kids, bad men, bad people. However, we forget that they're bad systems, family systems, education systems, criminal justice systems, political systems, that create the dynamic that we're seeing in our communities. So to me, we have to definitely have an investment in our youth, and we have to get the men back in the home.
That's right.
Because without the men being in the home,